Hi, and welcome to the Grace Under Pressure podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Willis, and today we have a returning guest, Miss Stephanie Williamson. Oh, I should say Professor Stephanie Williamson.
I'm still getting used to that, I gotta say.
Well, it's definitely well earned, and certainly I always knew I'm going to see this person get her black belt. So I'm excited to say that now you've gotten it and you're an official jiu-jitsu professor. And so I really wanted to have you back on the show as somebody who's just, gotten ranked up, to what that experience was like, to walk us through the day, those emotions, family, all that good stuff. Just wanted to hear that story.
Well, I got promoted on a Monday night, and the week prior we were at Master Worlds. And I competed the second time as a brown belt at Master Worlds. And to back up a little bit, my goals were to always win worlds at every level and then get my black belt on the podium at Worlds. And anyway, things did not go my way that day at Worlds, and I was honestly devastated. And my professor and I, had a long conversation. We went over my match, the mistakes that were made, and a lot of it just wasn't my day. And which is, if you compete often, you're gonna have days that are just not your days. And so anyway, in our conversation, jokingly, I told him I wasn't coming because our gym had a planned promotion ceremony. And so jokingly, I told him I wasn't coming to promotion ceremony because I wasn't even going to give him the temptation. Anyway, he laughed it off. I guess he took me seriously because we went to train the following Monday at Vita, and Professor Abrow was there as a visiting instructor. And so when I walked in, there were a bunch of people that I had not seen in a long time, but I sort of assumed that they were there to see a brow because he
Mhm.
now lives in Hawaii. And so we don't get to see him as often as normal. And so anyway, I just sort of assumed that they were there for that. And so anyway, we started the class, and it was funny too because Eric was there, and it was a Monday night, but it was a holiday too. It was Labor Day. Yeah, Labor Day.
Mhm. Mhm.
So anyway, they were closed for classes, so he was there, and again, assuming that he was there for a brow. And so anyway, so we started class, and we actually started class with Professor Greg promoting Casey from blue belt to purple belt. She had also competed at Master Worlds and won silver.
Mhm.
Um, and so anyway, so that sort of explained some of the people that were there. So we got started warming up, and I didn't think anything of it. We made rounds and kind of started the warm up, and midway through, Professor Eric stepped in the middle of the gym and kind of stopped everybody and gave his promotion speech. And about 20 seconds in, I knew what he was doing, and I just started sobbing.
Oh.
Oh, it was funny. He looked just as nervous as I was once I realized it was for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and anyway, he called me out there, and he actually took his black belt off and promoted me with the black belt that he had been given
Oh,
as his first
wow.
black belt. Yeah, it was I wouldn't have changed anything about it. It was really a sweet moment for sure.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sounds really just great. And I think he definitely took you seriously about not coming to promotion.
I think he did too. Oh, I think he did too.
Oh,
He has been my professor since the white belt.
oh, wow.
I started in a smaller gym in Mississippi, and about 6 months into training, he came and
Uh-huh.
started teaching there. And I went to all the tournaments he went to, and he's moved around a little bit, but I've remained under him the whole time. Just sometimes you just click with somebody and you learn best from them. And so
Mhm.
we've I've he's hung I've hung with him, he's hung with me the whole
Mm.
um journey. And so it was a very rewarding thing, very
Oh,
humbling too, I will say.
oh, for sure, for sure. You think about all that time and dedication, and it's just it's paid off at the end for sure, for sure. And are you the first female black belt he's promoted, or has he had the ability to do that to other females?
I know I'm his first female white to black.
Okay. Man,
I'm not
that's
sure
special.
about in Brazil and since he's been here, but
Right.
for sure the white to black.
And that's got to be a really special promotion for him too, you know.
Well, and I told him too, he's gonna die that I said this, but in my sobbing after losing at Worlds, I cry after I lose. It doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
if it's Worlds or if it's, you know, the AGF tournament down the street.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of my process. You can
Mm-hmm.
judge that if you want to, but I do.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, and I was told him kind of after the fact, I'm like, I really wanted to win so you could promote your first female American on the podium to black belt and all of that. Like it wasn't just
Mm-hmm.
about me, it was about you. Anyway, he
Yeah.
of course was like, you're being ridiculous, but
Right. Yeah. I got no, I understand. I understand you want to make them proud. I get
yeah.
it. I get it. Yeah. So what was, and I guess that's part of the reason why you didn't want to go to the promotion is that you didn't have the showing that you did. So is there I guess in those promotions, sometimes people think, you know, they didn't quote unquote earn it. Is that an emotion that you felt at the time, or you know?
I truly did. Not that I didn't earn it, because 100%, you know, if you added up all the hours that I have spent training over the last 7 or 8 years,
Mhm.
it's probably more than a lot of people train in 15 years of training.
Sure.
Um, and so it was more, I had set these goals and just really wanted to reach them.
Mhm.
But after receiving it and, you know, kind of taking a few days to accept it and see where I am. And
Mhm.
I really was looking back and, was super proud of what all, he and I have accomplished together. And I say he and I have accomplished together as well as everyone I've trained with, because nobody is successful in this sport by themselves. When you step on the mat, you're against another person, but honestly, all the training and preparation, if you don't have a solid team, behind you and training with you every day, it's really hard to be competitive in the sport.
Oh, for sure. I think that's 100% true. And I know one of our professors that we're under, not our main professor here, but he posed a question: is jujitsu an individual sport or a team sport? To which I responded quite adamantly, oh, it's both. Because you can't
Yes,
have the individual without the team, and then you can't have a team without individuals, so
absolutely.
but yeah, so walk us through, the first ever competition you had as a black belt. I mean, we just jumped straight into the fire with no gi pans. So
So,
why did you choose immediately turn right around?
I'm in nurse anesthesia school, and so I'm also a mom of two girls that are playing softball on the weekends and things like that. So I have a lot going on. And so that night, after promotion, Eric handed me my phone and said, change your registry or change your IBJJF membership. And so I did. And he went online and approved it. And he said, now sign up for Nogi fans. I said, what? Are you sure? And he said, I'm positive. And I said, okay. So I did. And I don't train a lot of Nogi, just to be very honest. It's been more of like a cycle thing where if we're getting ready for a Nogi tournament, then I'll kind of do a camp, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
6, 8 weeks out, and then start training a lot of Nogi.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that a couple of times. When I got promoted to purple belt, we set a goal for Nogi Worlds as well. And so every I've competed, in some bigger Nogi tournaments each year, but never that immediately after a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say that every time I switch the focus a little bit off of just gi training to no gi training, my gi improves by drastic measures. I mean, I start moving so much better, and I'm just more comfortable moving and taking risk. And I think you kind of get that when you train no gi,
Mm-hmm.
more so than in the gi, because you can control a little
Yeah.
better in the gi than you can no gi.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure.
so so we started our camp, and the night before, I had actually had clinicals the night before.
Oh
And so
my.
I was in Hattiesburg until 4:30 and then drove to Dallas
Oh my Lord.
and spent the night. And we anyway got up the next morning and moved around a little bit and kind of got loosened up. And he he looked at me. He said, "You ready to do this?" I'm like, "Eric, I don't know." I don't know. And he got a little bit, I won't say aggressive, but very persistent. And you are ready to do this. I don't promote anybody until they're ready to go to the next level, and that's not any different for you.
Mm.
And I said, all right. And so I went out there and I had gone to class. It's funny. I always laugh at I always kind of snicker when people make comments about I've seen this move taught, I've seen this move taught, like I've seen all these things. But I learned a different way to do a rear naked choke. I've been doing those chokes since I was a white belt, but
Mm-hmm.
I learned a different way from someone Tuesday morning at class. I went to morning class to get my nogi rounds in and sweat a little bit, make sure my weight was good, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught the same concept, he just verbalized it a little differently. And in that match, I could hear that person in my head telling me, to expand my chest. A lot of people tell you to arch your back, which is
Mm-hmm.
not wrong, but the way that he taught it was like to take a big breath and expand to finish it. And I started my match, I passed, the girl turned and I went to take the back, but couldn't get both of my hooks in. But I
Mm-hmm.
had the setup for the rear naked choke and I could hear him in my head, just expand your chest. And she tapped and it was a good feeling. It was very confirming for me that I was exactly where I needed to be and, was
Mm-hmm.
ready to take that next level.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great feeling winning your division for sure. And I know that it's always I think you almost always go for the open, and that's
A
always a
100%.
challenge.
A
Um,
100%.
and so with it being, the black belt division, I mean, it's all, they could have been doing it for who knows, black belts for who knows how many years, right? So what
Yeah.
was that experience like? Could you feel the difference and the different, styles, games, speeds, that kind of stuff?
I think sometimes a lot of that comes down to your specific game versus their specific game, at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something I've really kind of listened to over the years with Eric is kind of talking about how you start the fight and you're setting the tone so that you can play your game as opposed to responding to their game. And so I took my division match that way because I really didn't know anything about the girl or anything that she really did.
Mm-hmm.
So I just went with my game and aggressive as always, and was fighting for takedowns and all of that. And so none of that crossed my mind. I just kind of played what I like to play,
Mm-hmm.
and it worked out well. But I will say in the open, I fought a girl that I love and adore and respect and have since the white belt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Victoria Antonelli, who is, like I said, I've been watching her. I've been watching her game and learning from her kind of on the side. And they're also close friends, with Eric and myself and for years. And so stepping into that and kind of getting to fight your idols is it's a weird feeling as well. And so
Mm-hmm.
she was my first match in the open. And
Mm-hmm.
we had a good match. And in the last 30 seconds, she got 2 points and I ended up losing that match. But, and
Mm-hmm.
I know, what mistakes I made and things that I need to work on. And, but it was still a very confirming feeling. She's a very well accomplished. She hasn't been a black belt. I think she got promoted last year.
Okay.
But still very competitive. She won Master Worlds this year.
Awesome.
Um, Someone I've always loved and respected her.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you got to lose, you'd rather lose to somebody that you
Yeah.
respect and really like. So,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, that was something that I know. My coach Eric, he is different Eric for the listeners. He just got his black belt, and so he's waiting a little bit before he jumps into those waters. But I like your go get it attitude. Like we're just gonna go in there whole hog, just go in.
Figure it out as we go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what most of us are always doing, right? We're just figuring it out, guys.
I have there's a girl that's a great friend of mine that has started training, and she worked through the white belt pretty fast, and she has her blue belt now, and she's been competing, and
Mhm.
when she's won some matches, lost some matches, and I've my advice to her and to anybody out there who's competing is go.
Mhm.
The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to lose, and you're going to learn 10 times more than any one class is going to teach you.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I was at Nogi Pans, and I'm known for the ankle locks. And my coach, up until that camp, was saying, well, the ankle locks, all the legs, it's kind of fading out. And so I didn't drill it. I wasn't really focused on it. And would you know, this girl pulls guard so fast, gets my ankle, makes two
Yeah.
crunchy noises. I'm like, tap. I had to tap to an ankle lock. I'm like, are you kidding me? But I mean, those are things you just learn as you do it, what to expect, and the level of skill goes up every time. It's just like you said, you learn so much more going and competing, um, just in that one, maybe four matches, because you see very clearly if you've got holes in your game.
Yes, for sure. I've always learned more that way. I also think too, like depending on your size and weight and what game you play and what game, the people at your gym play, it's an opportunity for you to kind of test your game out against somebody your age, your size, you know, male, female, all those kind of things. And it just gives you a different look than you would get with your normal training partners.
For sure. And yeah, because the training partners, they know your game, right? They
Yes.
know what to expect. Whereas somebody maybe brand new to you, or somebody anybody in your division, they may not know your game, or they may not let you get this, that everybody at the gym seems to let you weave your arm in like this, but that person may not let you, or they have
Yes.
an answer for it. What has been, you mentioned it with one of your friends who's just gotten her blue belt and who competes. What is that like now in the black belt, era of your life, of of teaching now? Do you feel like there's more pressure on you when you teach or coach? Like, what's that now like as a coach if you're helping somebody on the sidelines? What's that like?
So I've been watching different people kind of make that black belt transition for many years. And I think it's really important to still have a learning mindset. Um, so for example, I taught at Vita last night, and somebody asked a question about a guard pass. I got that all day long. I can give you every distinct, minute detail. I can tell you exactly without watching you what you're doing wrong based on what you're telling me is happening. I all day long can help you with that. Um, but there's like aspects of the game that I'm not an expert on and will not pretend to be. And so the next question, and I ran it like an open mat with a Q&A in between.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we rolled, and the next question was, okay, when I berimbolo and invert from this position, this is happening. And I looked at my friend who I know is very detailed at that. I'm like, I'm gonna let you take this one because don't I'm not quite the expert on that like you are. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important to know your strengths and know your weaknesses regardless of what belt you have, and always be open to learning. Um and in any aspect of life, whether it be teaching or whether it be working as a nurse at the bedside or
Mm-hmm.
anything, if you're, uncertain, I think it's important to be like, I'm not real sure. Let me see. Let me look at some things, but I'll definitely get back to you with an answer.
I think
And so I
that's,
have tried very hard to maintain that, because I've seen a lot of people not, and you'll see they get to the black belt and then all learning stops, like their progression completely stops. And that's so sad because it's not the thing about jujitsu is it's lifelong learning.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that's a very healthy mindset. And I think that kind of rigid or fixed mindset, that can be very dangerous. And I know
Yeah.
that, you're in the nursing field. Oh my God, I can only imagine how dangerous that would be if, a nurse like, well, I know exactly what it is. And if they're wrong, that's
Yeah.
somebody's life on the line, right? And
Yes.
so, but no, I think that's, just like you said, jujitsu is a lifelong learning process, and so is life itself. Things are constantly moving and changing, and we've got to be able to say, it's okay. I may not know now, but I'm going to find the answer.
Yes.
You know.
Another thing too, I think with jujitsu is none of us have the same body types. And so something that may be, very simple for you may be super complex for me. And so I think it's important to, look, constantly be learning, but also be aware that something, if I'm teaching something that's super complicated for your body type, for me to be aware that maybe I need to modify that for you as this, as a student.
Mhm.
And, that way you're successful. And so I think that's important too. I've also been teaching at a friend of mine, Lisa's Shackelford on the coast.
Yeah.
I've been teaching for her on Monday nights, which I've really enjoyed. She's got a good group of people there.
Mhm.
And so, but in that class, there's varying ages, varying weight, sizes, male, female, just people in all different parts of life. And so, in that class and in any classes that I teach, a lot of the times I'm having to kind of modify different things as I walk around so that it works for that person. And so I
Mhm.
think as a professor, even more, it's important to remember that, like, just because this one thing works this way for you, that maybe it's going to work a little different because their arms are shorter or their legs are longer, or, you know, they're 25 and can do things that you can't do, or vice versa. They're in their 50s and so they're having to modify their
Mhm.
movements based on what their body will allow them to do.
And that's the fun part because it's a challenge, but then that's also the hard part because it's a challenge, I would
Yeah.
imagine. Because shoot, just teaching literature like I do, it's hard to differentiate. So I can only imagine differentiating for all different kinds of body types and ages out there. Because, an 18-year-old moves very different from a mid 30s person. So
Yeah. Yes.
unless, yeah, no, we were out training. Um, where was it that Ben and I just went? I think yeah, it was like the Free State Jiu-Jitsu, which is in Jones County. And it was just really interesting to see everybody, just how they roll differently and how the instructor was trying to help them. Okay, you're trying to get this move down. Okay, well, let's modify it this way to where, if it's a triangle, I've got long legs, I can just jump up there and grab it. So it's just really interesting to see how that black belt addressed those kinds of situations.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's all different. One of the things I enjoy about training at different gyms is seeing the different styles. Because everyone has a different approach.
Oh yeah, I mean, just like we all have different perspectives. Yeah, you're gonna definitely have a different approach. I know some people that I've and you may have experienced this too, especially like with lapel stuff, which is its own Rubik's cube that I'm trying to learn to like the game. I'm trying. And so, oh, well, you need to do it this way, you need to do it that way. And I was taught by several people on lapels, and then I had a mutual friend. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know him, Cody Landry. He taught me how to do.
Yes.
Yeah, so he taught me some lapel stuff. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. So
Yeah.
it's just different, same move, but just different style of communication makes all the difference too on that.
The
So,
maddest Eric has ever been at me is I think I was a blue belt at the time, and I had probably done 5 or 6 privates on passing De La Hiva, like breaking that hook, breaking that hook, breaking that hook. And I could do it drilling, but I never could do it in the roll. Like, I was getting swept. I mean, I was the easiest person in the gym to sweep at the time with De La Hiva. And he was telling me to turn my toes out and to break the hook. And I'm like, and again, could do it in the drill, but every time I was rolling, I'm like, it hurts my knee, it hurts my knee. And
mhm.
another professor came to the gym and they're like, Stephanie, turn your knee out. And I'm like, oh. So anyway, I came back to him. I'm like, he told me to turn my knee out. And Eric's like, it's physically impossible to turn your toes and not turn your knee. And I'm like, so literally they were saying the exact same thing, just in different words. And
Yeah.
so but it clicked for me that day. I also joke a lot with, I learned something, 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
but then it's retaught and all of a sudden it's the best thing I've ever seen in a he'll roll his eyes at me. I'm like, I was not ready to receive that day. Like I was not ready. But today I am.
Yes, yes. The past is the past. The
Yeah.
time is now. Oh my gosh. Oh, but that's so true though. Some days your brain is like, yeah, yeah, I'm jiving, I'm jiving. And then the next day it's like birds are just whistling in your ears. You get
Yeah.
nothing.
It's like, what is going on? So that's another thing too. Like in a teaching role, I've tried to remind myself, like, I'm not an easy person to teach at all. I will do the work. I mean, I will work fingers to the bone, do the work. But sometimes I am not easy as far as like receiving exactly what it is you're saying. And so
Mhm.
I am not the easiest to teach. And so I try to remember that like in verse when I'm teaching somebody, like if I can tell they're not getting it, like just being aware that I need to rephrase this because it's
Mm.
not on them, like it's on me. I need to help them understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And that's always, it's like, what can you say that's going to make it click? I know whenever I teach like X guard or single leg X, if I get the opportunity to teach, um, sometimes, and it's usually because we have a lot of teenagers, the teenagers are looking like, okay, wait, what? I'm like, okay, guys, everybody find a partner, just mirror me. Let's go through this together.
yeah,
That's how I have to do it because I know how I learn with jujitsu. I have to see it and I have to feel it. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So I gotta, just giving me a mental picture sometimes works, but then if I feel it done correctly, like one or two times in a row, it's like okay, it clicks, and then then I
yes,
can. And that seems to be what a lot of my kids, because they do a lot of other sports like baseball or soccer or something like that. And it's that same idea of that physical repetition and getting that feeling. And that
yeah.
seems to click with them. But now I say that, and next time I teach, it's not going to work whatsoever. Who knows? So, but we've got a lot of, I know a couple of first time ever kids in our gym. I say kids, they're teenagers, they're driving, but they are going for their first ever tournament. And I was wondering if there was any kind of advice or what to talk about or what to expect on a first day tournament. If anybody's listening to this and they know you're a competitor, what advice you would give?
My advice for your first tournament is to go and have fun. Um, experience it because my opinion, competing is learned. You have to learn like what works for you. You know, if you get there and you have this huge adrenaline dump and you're exhausted after the first match, like these are all things that you have to learn. So my advice is to go into the tournament. Do not cut a bunch of weight your first tournament. Just go and fight at the division that you're in. And go and just experience it. Have somebody record so that when you go back and watch the match, because the match is in your mind and what you're feeling is going to go very differently than how it actually went, like once you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my trends with students and myself too is it felt terrible if you lost and it felt wonderful if you won.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But when you go back and watch the video, you see your mistakes regardless, but then sometimes you watch the video and it's like one little thing that you did wrong. Oh, I can fix that and you can come back and be better. So first tournament, go in, fight your weight division, no expectations, go and try to enjoy the experience and then build off of that experience. I have a whole pump list and it like I listen to the songs in order. Like I have a designated time I put my headphones on and I like it's a switch that I turn on
Mm-hmm.
and I listen to music the whole time and it pumps me up and it's like super positive, let's go music. But I also have friends who have to listen to something that like brings them down a few notches because they're so amped up that they can't focus. And
Mm.
so some of like those details are learned, but you have to kind of develop some self-awareness by putting yourself in those positions and figuring out like what works for you. You
Mm.
know, if you listen to wild rap music and you got in your match and you were so nervous you couldn't see straight, maybe you need to kind of tone it down a little bit and kind of help control those emotions before you get out there. I
Mm-hmm.
personally just need something that pumps me up and gets me ready to go. Um, so yeah, first tournament and try not to cut weight. unless you're like 6 months out and you're like, I want to lose 10 pounds in the next few months, and that like that goal helps you, stay committed to your nutrition and things.
Hmm.
But I see a lot of people cut like 10 pounds of weight the night before their first tournament. And then I'm like, you didn't, like, you were miserable. So you
Yeah.
don't really know like how you could have done because you were, dehydrated and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. So I would get the first timer experience out of the way and kind of see where you are before I started trying to cut weight like that.
Yeah, that's just so dangerous. I know, about to say in the bodybuilding world, yeah, you would shed a lot, you shed all your water, you don't drink anything for 24 hours, kind of a deal. Like, but that's bodybuilding. You're
Yeah.
on the edge of passing out the entire time versus, okay, let's go run a marathon with no water in our system and see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just so dangerous to cut that weight, which is a good thing. A lot of tournaments they make you weigh in, a few hours before or right before you go on. Hope to kind of combat that, but people are gonna find a way. People are gonna find a way.
Well, I'm not opposed to cutting weight per se, but that first time, I just think you learn so much about yourself that first time, like how you handle stress. And, it's hard to perform at your best if you've never done that. And then you're put
Hmm.
yourself in a situation that that you don't, you've never been in before. And now you've kind of fighting your body a little bit. So
Right.
I think once you've established that, if you need to cut a few pounds, 2 or 3 pounds the night before, then that's fine. But um, that first time, like I said, and I think they see like people who've been competing for a long time cutting that weight. And I know a lot of them see it happening in the UFC, which is a whole different
A
ball game. But
whole different ball game. Yeah.
they get the 24 hours, to
Hmm.
rehydrate and be ready to actually fight versus the
Right.
30 minutes you might get at the IBJJF tournament in the
Right.
pit to
Yeah,
rehydrate. So
for
I
sure.
think that's why a lot of people are like, oh, I got to cut 10 pounds for this tournament. It's like, don't do it for
Mm,
your first one. Just go out there, have
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I know. I don't think our kids or if they were to cut anyway, they would be nothing but a skeleton at this point. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But I know
I
the
definitely don't recommend for kids at all.
no, 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 no. And so when I was talking to them, and one of them, I assumed he had done a tournament before because he's been a part of the program for so long. I just assumed, but he and the girl who I really want to have on the show, she's such a success story in jujitsu. Her name's Dakota. She went from being in tears, not able to finish her first ever trial class, to now she is signing up for a tournament, and
I
she is a
love it.
beast. Yes, and so I'm loving. She's doing all my fun stuff. She does the buggy choke. She does all that fun stuff. But like, yes, you're making me proud out there. But no, I was encouraging both of them. I said, look, my first ever tournament, I had the biggest adrenaline dump that
Yes.
I almost passed out. And so they said, oh my God. I said, no, it's fine. I didn't plan for it. Nobody warned me about it. So that's why I want to warn you so that if you start feeling a little lightheaded, that's okay. That's probably very normal,
Yeah.
because you've never had somebody coming at you really wanting to do damage, right? And so, we all have fun, we laugh, we have a good time in class. But, when you go up against a complete stranger, at an AGF, IBGF, whatever it may be, whatever platform, it's not that they want to kill you. It's just they want to win, and
They
they
want to
want
win.
you, and they want you to lose. And so it's the closest thing you can get in jujitsu to an actual street fight, you
Yes.
know, and you'll be sore for it seems like months later. But I was just trying to encourage them and say that it's okay to be nervous, but don't let those nerves take away from having a great time, with friends, with family. And it's a good thing they get to go there. It's a whole group. It's a great group going down. It's in New Orleans. That's a fun place anyway to go. And so hopefully, I don't know, hopefully if they are listening to this, they'll be encouraged.
I have one more to add on that. Have a
Yeah.
plan on how you're going to start your fight. Like if you
Mm,
pull guard in the gym, be ready to pull guard. If you're somebody who normally takes down, have a plan on how you're going to start. Because one, you don't want to be waiting on them to decide how the match is going to go. Like you want to set that tone. But also, when that moment hits where you're not quite sure what day of the week it is and why you signed up for this tournament because your heart's racing so fast,
mm-hmm.
you're like, oh yeah, I was going to take down, and then you can go, and then and then your training kicks in, and then it's a different, it's a different thing. To where
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't know what your plan was when you walk out there and all that happens, you're just kind of stunned because you're nervous, so you can't think, but you're also not real sure what you wanted to do either.
Mm.
So that's my advice, is to have a plan going in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the plan can always go sideways, but I think
For
the way
sure.
that what is it? Mike Tyson said everybody's got a plan until they're punched in the face or something like that. But that shouldn't happen though. But I I think that's so important that I think sometimes kids, because they're just so excited, they're just so amped and they just want to get out there and go, go, go. That yeah, having a plan and drilling that plan
Yes.
almost to the point where you're sick of it. That's so important because like you said, when you get out there, it's especially first ever tournament, it is nerve city. And at least you've got that muscle memory built up where, your body kind of like, okay, I got this. I've done this, 100 times before, even stepping out on this mat. And so, and
I think I told this story on the last episode
you
about
may
Brianna's
have.
first tournament.
I don't know. You may not have actually. I know we talked a lot about her softball and how it's good for kids and stuff.
So Brianna's first tournament, she was 4, maybe 5. And she was so nervous that she just started sobbing uncontrollably on the side of the mat. At AGF, they separate you. The
Mm-hmm.
parents are on one side and they bring all the kids in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was standing there, and the refs looking at us like, is she going to fight? And, at that point, I let Professor take over because I am the parent in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I kind of looked at him. He's like, she is fine. Let her fight. I'm like, all right, well, we're going to let her fight. So she is sobbing. I mean, like, she bumps hands, shakes fists, does all the things, and she is sobbing.
Oh
This girl
my.
comes in. Yes, this girl comes into double legger and she sprawls, takes the back, chokes her. She taps, hand in the air. The child is still crying. Like, she has won the match. But I, was definitely getting judged by every parent there in the moment. But that's one
Oh
of the
yeah.
reasons that I think competing is so good, is it teaches at such a young age, like how to handle pressure, like how to keep going despite the fact that on the inside you are definitely falling apart. And I think that's important for life too. Like life is not always going great, but you got to keep going. You got to keep doing your thing. And I know a jujitsu tournament is kind of a simplified version of that. But
Mm-hmm.
man, if you can learn to control all of that comes in that moment, you can really do some things outside that maybe you didn't think you could do.
Oh gosh, yes. And that emotional control, being that young, I mean, I'm laughing because it's just funny thinking about it. Like she's crying and is just killing it, and still crying after she wins. But, that's a lot of emotion for, a young kid and getting exposed in a non-threatening way. I mean, yes, there's a match, but, it's not a life or death situation. But being exposed to panic or nervousness or being, maybe just really just having self-doubt in that moment and being able to process that, I would think as a kid, especially as children, is so helpful for them to be, you know, emotionally capable when something really bad happens.
Yes.
And when the pressure gets a little bit more serious, like, what I'm dealing with not personally, but, with my kids and, junior year, they're taking the ACTs, they're taking some really hard tests, they're getting ready for the rest of their life, so to speak.
Yes.
And that's pressure. I have had a lot of kids. I know last year, I think I had 6 or 7 kids have nervous breakdowns, just because it wasn't anything I was doing. It was just life was so stressful. And
Yes.
so I don't
I
know.
think there's, I think jujitsu gives them so much value in honestly, grand scheme of things, big picture, who cares if she loses that match? But
Right.
that learning how to work under pressure, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
um, I feel like, and I'll let y'all know in a few years how it actually went. But I feel like when they're older and they're, doing hard things in life, they're gonna feel more equipped to handle, what is thrown at them.
For sure. Because I think too often, as parents or, just in society in general, we want to try to make it as easy as possible, as stress-free as possible, to, give every single opportunity. I don't want to say helicopter parent or well, I think, it's actually a lawnmower parent where they mow down all the hard obstacles in front of the kids to make it easier. Which that's
Yes.
coming from a great place. It's a wonderful place. But life is full of that tall grass or those obstacles. And so I think giving kids an actual legitimate, or anybody giving them a physical struggle that they have to work through, helps them find that grit, find that determination to really, have that great work ethic to, if just because I'm feeling the pressure doesn't mean I have to metaphorically tap out to it.
Yes.
So, I mean, because you talked about, you jokingly said, I'm not the best, at, being taught, but I will work at something. Right. And so I think that's kind of at the heart of it, right? You're going and it may be tough, but you're going to do the work. Gosh darn it.
Yes. Several times we have been working some new move and I need it broken down like you were teaching the 3 and 4 year olds, and we'll break it down like that, and I'll drill those specific movements that for whatever reason my body said I can't do that. And so I would break it down that way, and I would, within, after 1,000 reps, okay, now I can add the second piece. Okay, after another 1,000 reps, I can add the third piece. And so I think it's important. I just feel like jujitsu, I know I probably wouldn't have ever gone back to school without jujitsu. Going back to school was something I always wanted to do, but didn't really feel like I was capable of doing. Um, and so I know it's given me the confidence to do a lot of things that I didn't feel like I was capable of. I wish I had found it before I was an adult.
Mm-hmm. Because those people who are adults now are young, 18-year-olds or 21 or so year olds getting those black belts. My God, they're monsters.
Oh my gosh.
I don't, yeah, that's what I would be terrified of, is if I go, competing against, because black belt, you don't know that, there's no degree, like they don't separate it based on the degree of the black belt.
No.
You could be going up against a 3-stripe white belt, not white belt, excuse me, black belt. And it's like, I just got my black belt. Oh God, Oh my goodness. That's why, I mean, that's a you move. I mean, it really is just to go out there. We're going guns blazing. I loved it. But yeah, so anything that you would want to add or comment that what's new in your life other than the black belt and black belt Nogi Pans gold medal?
Well, I am hoping to get my first Nogi Worlds medals here in a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So it worked out. We take finals the like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of that week. And then I would fight either Friday or Saturday. So it worked out
That's
perfectly.
perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
I love
So
it.
yeah. So we'll I'm excited for it. We've been training hard. We just continued, the Nogi training that we did to get ready
Right.
for Nogi Pan. So
Yeah. Makes sense. Man, I'm
fix
excited.
fix my mistakes and hopefully pull
Uh-huh.
out another one.
Oh yeah, well, I am confident. I would bet my money on you if I bet, yeah. But I know there'll be great matches, they'll be fun, and win or lose. I don't like to say win or lose, because you don't lose, you learn. And so
Always.
either way, you're going to be coming out ahead of the game. So, and applying what you've learned to, the gym and to your students and just stacking them up, man. Well, thank you for coming back on the show. I really appreciate your time. Love talking to you and like getting your perspective on competition, because when I think competitor, I think you. So,
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you inviting me back. I really enjoyed it.
oh, well, thank you very much. I'm glad to have you on. And anytime you want to be on the show, just know it's an open invitation. So,
Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.